Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Tao, and this will be my first speech. I think the best way to introduce myself is to share one of my favorite moments. And this happened to be a November afternoon in New York City. It was Fifth Avenue, freezing cold out there, but there's thousands of people cheering. Now, unfortunately, I didn't really get to enjoy the cheer because at that point I was pretty tired. You see, this is mile 26 of New York City Marathon, and I've been running for like 5.5 hours already. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to cross the finish line, and I was about to win one of my biggest personal achievements. Now, that's not because I finished 45,000th place in the New York City Marathon, but it's because I did something that I saw for many, many years was impossible for me. My challenge started when I was very young. I was 7, and when we did elementary school in China, they actually had a PE class. And in the PE class, you have to take a fitness test in order to pass the class. Now, I remember back then, the test was just simply jump ropes. You just have to do 20 straight to pass the class, and I can't do it. Second grade, long jump, can't do it. And the 50-meter dash was 11 seconds, just terrible. So by then, I started to develop this reputation of not being athletically talented. Everyone looked at me and said, he's pretty smart, but yeah, he's not going to make any sports team. It's a lost cause, which I agree. So for many, many years, fitness and outdoor activities was just not my thing. Somebody asked me to play basketball, I was like, yeah, you guys go ahead. So that's become a vicious cycle, essentially. Because if you just don't try it, you get worse. And I was really out of shape. Now, things didn't get any better when I moved to the US, because in the US, number one, you drive instead of you walk. And number two, you eat a lot worse. And number three, I decided to study in computer engineering, which means I really get to sit around all day without even needing to do anything. So that's not good. So at that point, if you ask me that I'm going to run a marathon in a few years, it's pretty unthinkable. The turning point came in a random conversation with my friend Rocky. He signed up for the upcoming half marathon. He just asked me, do I want to join? My initial reaction was, are you nuts? Like, I can't even run 2 miles on a treadmill. You want me to run 13 miles out there? What's wrong with you? He was like, no, it's not a big deal. It's not that hard. Just give it a try. Go practice with me, and you will see how I feel. So I did. Now, we went on a 5-mile trail, and I ran about 1 mile, and I couldn't do it anymore. So I stopped walking, which is fine, it was okay. But the best part is then I started to notice people passing me on the trail. First was a dad pushing 2 strollers, one in each hand. It's like, good for you. Then was a mom with a few young boys racing past me. It's like, okay, little boys, they're young. And then there's a 70-year-old lady who was speed walking. Yeah, she's not even running, she's speed walking. And guess what? I can't catch up to her. That was the best part. So then I went home and started thinking, well, here I am, 26 years old, and I can't even catch up to a 70-year-old lady. And I thought I can't do this. Something's got to be wrong with me. And that became my motivation to sign up for the race. It's not because I'm going to run a good score, but rather I want to prove to my point that I can turn my life around. This is a test for myself. So the training is so difficult, and it requires several months of careful planning, a lot of getting up early in the morning, bearing the pain, and persevere through the stress as well as the uncertainties. But I think I have the right motivation, and with a few months of hard work, I was able to train for the half marathon, and a few years later, full marathon. Now, this experience was particularly enlightening, not because I just accomplished it, but it also illustrated to me how important the mindset is. You see, at the beginning, I kind of was in a fixed mindset. What you call a fixed mindset? Basically, you believe what you are is already determined, that you can't change anything. And for that reason, I kind of stayed in a box defined by others to me. But through this experience, I learned everything can be changed. It's not that you can't do anything, it's just you can't do it yet. And with time, you can figure it out. Now, as I transition towards the next stage of my career, I keep looking back to this experience and draw power from it. I was an engineer by trade, and in the next, and then I applied to business school, and now I'm about to enter the world of business. Another challenge that I have, I saw I was never going to be good at the time was public speaking. After all, I did become an engineer, not to deal with people. But now, having done this, having conquered running, I now know that it is possible to make a difference. You just need to believe you can get out of your own box, and then life will become a lot better if you do that. Thank you.
Everybody please stand. Congratulate Tao. You can take a few minutes to write comments for Tao. Okay. So I'd like to introduce our third speaker. Our third speaker is Arjun Ajampur. Yeah. And our guest speaker is from the Milpitas speakers. And he's delivered 300% more speeches in the first 2 months this year compared to the whole of last year. Amazingly, during this time, his weight has reduced 14 pounds and body fat by 5%, and recently he won the Best Father Award with 100% of the votes.
Woohoo!
So don't fret.
Here you go, Dad.
Even you can achieve this astounding feat. How? By listening to his speech titled Lying with Statistics. Arjun. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you all doing?
Excellent.
Good.
Right answer. So my speech is inspired by this book by Darrell Huff. It's a classic that he wrote in the mid-1970s, and it's called How to Lie with Statistics. And I guarantee you that you've been a victim of this and you don't know it. It happens to us every day, in the newspapers, in the magazines, in the articles we read online. So how do we deal with numbers, the terror that numbers throws at us? Especially now that it's re-election season, all sorts of drafts will come up, all sorts of charts would make the candidates look so good, but the truth lies somewhere else. Let me ask you a question. How many of you brushed your teeth in the morning today? It's very concerning to me that not all hands went up. Let's go to a difficult question. How many of you know the brand of toothbrush you use? Can you tell me why you picked the brand and which brand?
It's a Sonicare, and I chose it because my dentist recommended it.
Okay, right on. So, let's move on to what she did not choose, which was Oral-B. And if you look at the ad, what does it say? It says it's #1. It's used by dentists themselves. And it also says 100% more plaque removal. Now, if I were looking for a toothbrush, this is the best one that I can pick. But wait, here is what she uses. And I didn't talk to her before the speech, but Sonicare tells us that it's also #1. So how can there be two #1s? Well, let's look deeper at what they are number one at. They don't claim to be number one at anything except it's recommended by dental professionals. So we have to always look at some of the fine print there and then start looking deeper into whether or not that makes any sense. So let's dig deeper into this. I started Googling for more Oral-B ads. And I was wondering, are they really dentists, these people? Is he a dentist?
No.
He's not a dentist. It's just an ad that's made for the Indian subcontinent. And there's one for another Indian subcontinent. And then just to add some diversity, there's also some more ads by Oral-B. So what is Oral-B and Philips doing here? They are lying with some statistics. They are lying with real numbers, but they are still lies. So the first thing you want to know is how they lie with questionable sample sizes. So if you look at the same example, Oral-B is number one in something, we don't know, but it's used by dentists themselves. Philips is number one dental professional recommended, and they have this keyword worldwide. So let's start thinking, did they really go through the pain of reaching out to all the dental professionals in the world to get this feedback? I don't think so. Even if they did, let's look at how large is the sample size. How many dentists in this room? See, there are no dentists in this room. The sample size itself is small. How many responded? So if you are asked a survey, what are the chances that you would respond?
Not good.
That's another thing. And how many really told the truth? Many times surveys don't consider the obvious thing that people are lying for whatever reason it is. So we have an already small sample, and some dentists might not even have great teeth to begin with, so they won't even reply to the surveys. And did the toothbrush make the difference? It could just be that they started doing something else, like stop drinking caffeine or some other thing that contributes. And again, you want to ask, are they still using the toothbrush, or they just proclaim to do so for that ad, took the money, and now they're using, Philips. So the joke is on us because we are the ones who are going to be laughing at it. So the next thing you want to look at is lying with percentages. This is something I found off the web. Why don't you just read it for a second? So obviously, I did think about it, and it makes no sense, right? But somebody still thought that 1% every day is 365% in 1 year. And simple math, they're saying if you have $100, you'll have 365 at the end of the year, which is absolutely not right. If you do some compound interest, it comes out to 3,778%. So that's the true increase if you increase 1% every day. So there are small things that we tend to overlook. If somebody tells us something grandiose, you believe it, but you want to again look at it. Really? Is it really 365%? So the bigger question here is, did that guy actually do any math before writing it out? That this is absolutely not true. So let's jump to another one. This is an actual graph by the Department of Education, and it came out during the Obama era. And here there are several cardinal sins going on. First thing is the way you would never represent a bar chart with smaller elements, like 5 books make up 75%, and then here 16 books make up 82%. So these things are alarming. If you're reading this, you have to be wondering what the hell is going on here, because nothing makes sense. And if you can look at it, on the y-axis there are no numbers. So what is this percentage of? So you want to look at not just the beautiful graphs, but also the numbers underneath on the x and y-axis. So if anyone familiar with The Office, the number of graduates really made Michael Scott cry because he promised them all laptops and everybody graduated. So he was basically broke. And the last part is lying with graphs and charts, and this happens every day. Did you know there's a correlation between the divorce rate in Maine and the consumption of margarine? There is. So if you can see that, you can easily correlate these two numbers and predict what is going to happen next year in Maine. and how many people are going to get divorced. Same thing with the marriage rate in Kentucky and the number of people who drowned after falling out of a fishing boat. You can see in 2008 it was almost close to each other. So this is the way people can use data today to give you these absurd correlations which tend to make some sense. But if you dig deeper, if I didn't tell you what this was, you would think that these two are correlated, but they're not. You're being fooled by randomness. So I showed it to my cat and she wasn't happy for it. And let's move on to something more somber, but this is the graph of car crashes on holiday weekends, long holiday weekends like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Labor Day, and so on. So what pops out here between the blue and the orange bar graphs? Can
The
somebody
blue
tell me?
stays the same.
Difference?
Yeah, what is the difference?
It's pretty big on weekend versus non-weekend.
Yeah, so it seems pretty big. Like it's absurd that if I drive on a weekend, I'm going to die because it's almost twice as big. But the reality is this. So there is not a great deal of difference between those two. So most often when they're lying to you with bar charts, they're going to trim off the bottom and show you only this much. So always look for the full picture, otherwise you'll end up doing this. Staying in bed. So again, to go over what I said, first of all, you want to question the sample size. Out of how many did they consider? And then realize if I send out a survey to 100 people and only 10 responded, I can't use 10 as a sample size and say, oh, 50% of my sample said yes. So I asked my wife and my son if I was the best dad, and they said yes, so 100%, right? But that's not how it works. Ask for the whole. When you say percentage of what, again, think about the bigger picture. And then finally, you want to say no cherry picking. It happens far too often when you look at graphs and data that as somebody who wants to convince you of something, I'm going to take only things that I want and show you what you want to see. So everybody here didn't raise their hand for the toothbrush question, but I'm going to assume that we all brushed our teeth in the morning, and it doesn't matter which toothbrush you picked. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Arjun. Take a few minutes to write some comments and feedback for Arjun. Okay, and now we're at our general evaluations part of the meeting, and I'd like to introduce our general evaluator, our president, Hannah.
Alright, so usually we don't have the general evaluator also be an evaluator, but in this case, just moving forward and since we started a little bit late, it will be me. And this is the evaluation part of our meeting. If you're a guest here, this is where we give feedback to all of our speakers and help them improve on their pathways to be better Toastmasters. So the first evaluation we have is for Kim. So before I call the other two evaluators, I'm going to go over Kim's speech. And then I already filled out the feedback form. But in terms of your content, Kim, I honestly didn't know what to expect. When you made a lot of room for this physical arena, I was like, she's either gonna do a backflip, like a front somersault, or something where she's gonna like tumble over. So I didn't know what to expect of how much area you needed for your speech. But I thought it was very cool that you incorporated a lot of kind of physical elements of it, including your outfit changes and then your props that you use. So props is one of those things I feel a lot of SS Toastmasters don't use, and is very key, I think, in certain kind of speeches, especially with a lot of action that's kind of in your content. You walked through like all the different sports that you tried and attempted, and then also failed, and then also went through your whole story kind of in a chronological order. So like I'll do this and this, this. By the time you got to the end of the title of your speech, usually some people structure it the other way around. So we're already in tune and in alignment with what the title of the speech is, and we know what to expect. So the fact that you kind of changed the structure and added the your call to action at the end, so like be brave in your attempt to the end of your speech, I thought that was actually different, challenging, but that you pulled it off pretty good. And so one of the things that you excelled at, a few of them I just want to highlight, is your pitch and your energy. You brought a lot of energy to your speech, which is something that we're not really accustomed to all the time. So you did have a high pitch, high energy. You're very clear in your vocalization. In terms of vocal variety, I felt like you had a lot of high positive energy, but in terms of places where you failed or it was a challenge that you like smacked on your, like you fell on your, you said you kept using smacked and you kept doing this, where you can either pause or do like a solid tone. So like building up that intensity and that curiosity, which will lead people through the end of your speech. And the preparation, some things that you might be able to work on is just preparing for the physical aspect of it. So I know we added you on as a speaker kind of last minute, and just being everybody on the, letting everybody know on the same page that you're going to need a lot of space and a lot of time. The emotional connection with the audience, I feel physically, and then the excitement you did build with the audience, in terms of engaging with the audience and catching everybody's eye, that was also one of your areas of improvement. I felt like you were looking like into the walls versus like looking with people and building that emotional intensity for your speech. So that's just one of the areas. One thing that I've been told by other Toastmasters that mentored me in speaking is pausing, that like the success in the speech lies in the pause. And then just adding some areas where, like I said, it builds that intensity and that curiosity that carries it through and flows through the end of the speech. There was only a couple of points where I kind of got lost of where it was going, but I think you incorporated back with the physical aspect of it. Like you continued your story with each challenge that you faced. So overall, great speech, and then yeah, I look forward to hearing you do another one like that too. Felt like I was watching a movie and it was a good movie. And then our next evaluator we have for Cal was Arsh, so we can call up Arsh. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Tal, for your icebreaker speech. It was great to be able to listen to your experience that you had and how stepping out of your comfort zone really helped you to change your mindset pretty much. And I think it had a great sequential order. So starting with when you were in grade school, how you felt like you couldn't jump rope, and then you associated that with not being athletically talented because throughout the years you realize that, okay, I'm not successful here, so this is just something I'm not good at. And also then starting with the race in the beginning of your speech, so starting with that moment of when you're about to achieve something and then kind of going back to explain how you got there was really interesting and helped us to kind of really put into perspective of your experience. And then also furthermore going into how you moved to the US, further adding on to that preconceived notion that you had of how you weren't athletically talented because here you drive everywhere, you don't walk, you have the diet's a lot worse because of the processed foods, and then majoring in computer engineering where you're looking at a computer screen for a majority of your day, so adding on to that mindset that you had created. And then I think the interesting part is when you realize that this is not when you decided to challenge yourself when you were hiking and then you saw that 70-year-old woman pass you up. So it's like, okay, no, I know I can do better, and I'm gonna try to challenge myself to be able to get rid of this preconceived notion. So then explaining to us how you did that by preparing for this race, waking up early in the morning to be able to do something like this, to prepare, and proving yourself wrong pretty much, and then being able to ultimately change your mindset, which all in all, I think it's inspiring to all of us. We all want to achieve greater things, change our mindset about preconceived notions that we have, step out of our comfort zone, and ultimately become better. And I think your speech did that in a really well manner. And the things that you could potentially improve was I kind of noticed that you were looking more towards this side of the room. I know the setup is a little weird, so maybe that's probably why, because usually it's the whole, everyone, you can kind of see everybody. But that's one thing, and using your space, so kind of stationed here throughout the whole time, so for changing your points, so you starting off with your race, maybe once you're going back into your childhood experience, you can kind of move around, so the audience kind of knows to follow. I know that the points are changing. And then vocal variety, I know you mentioned earlier on the beginning of your speech how you're about to win one of the biggest achievements of your life. So if there's a little bit more vocal variety, capturing the audience's attention so they know, oh wow, this is like the biggest achievement of your life, and then going into how you got there. And then overall, I thought it was a great speech. We learned a lot, and obviously it's always inspiring to see how someone else steps outside of their comfort zone, so we have that confidence to do it ourselves. And look forward to learning more and hearing more speeches. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Arch. And then for Arjun as our guest speaker, we also have a guest evaluator. So one of the great things about Gavin is he has a goal this year to do over 100 evaluations within our whole district. And so he's over here joining our meeting, not only as an ambassador, but trying to meet that goal. So let's give it up to Gavin for coming out here.
Arjun, thank you for delivering such a speech that relating to everybody. I really love your speech. For this evaluation, I wanted to evaluate based on 3 aspects: the content, the logic, and the delivery. First, you have perfect logic. At the very beginning, you just ask some questions, for instance, relating to brushing your teeth. And then, about the product, 3 number 1 products. That's confusing, and that sparked our curiosity about everything underlying the scenes. And then you just give us 3 points. And I especially love your ending, no matter, it doesn't matter which brush you use. That's beautiful done. The second part is about the content. You have 3 points: the sample size, the percentage, and the graphs and charts. And you use many pictures, many products or phenomena to demonstrate your point. And at the very end, you give solutions or questions out of the exact number, what percentage of what, and the whole big picture. I really love it. For this part, another possibility is if you can give us some quotations from experts that can enhance the credibility or strengthen your point. And then the delivery. You have a lot of colorful pictures showing your point. That's great, and everybody can see it's very effective. Here is my suggestion. You can use a video to bring more diversity of your visual aids, because again and again it's a pictures. It's about the sameness of your delivery. You may use 15 seconds or 30 seconds of video that can show the point, I think that will bring more diversity and energy for your speech. Or it's a really impressive speech. I love this kind of speech. I believe you are a very good candidate delivering a keynote speech in maybe 5,000 audience members. Thank you.
Alright, thank you, Gavin. Now, I can't evaluate myself, but thank you guys so much for taking the time and the energy to really give those evaluations and feedback to the speakers, especially on continual improvement. And so I like that the 3 things that Gavin highlighted was the intensity, the curiosity, and the delivery, and also Arj talking a lot about the content of Cal's icebreaker. So we're going to move forward with table topics, because we're just a little bit behind.
Oh, sure.
Yep. Call our table topics master, Jose.
Again, as I said in my invocation, our table topics will be difficulties. The idea being to give us a good perspective of why things are difficult. For example, we choose ice cream, right? We say, is it vanilla or chocolate? For some of us, chocolate is difficult. So there's a reason behind it. It's a personal choice. Circumstances cause it, right? And you could also explore what you learn from it. So, moving ahead, I brought up some topics. You can change topics too. It's okay. It's allowed. You can have that. But first, for the first topic, I would like to explore what makes it difficult for you to. What for you would be a difficult food to eat, or you can make it easier. You can say what it would be a difficult food for you. Do you think to prepare? Who would like to do that? Anybody volunteer? Oh, yeah, would you like to do it? Okay. Yeah?
The most difficult food for me to eat is spicy food. I have a very wimpy tongue. Don't go to Indian restaurants because I find all of the food is spicy. I would have such a hard time if I ever visited India because I wouldn't be able to eat any of the food. I would probably lose 50 pounds. I might starve to death. Mexican food, the same thing. Why must spicy hot chilies be in everything? Impossible to eat. All of you who have these tongues that don't taste anything because they're all burned up and we're on fire, no longer can taste the subtleties of food, the meager little differences in flavors and spices. I really enjoy that my tongue is sensitive and can pick up those nuances. Be gone, spicy food. Back to you.
Thank you. Okay. So our next topic it will be in regards to challenges, right? So the topic will be in terms of work or task. What makes for you? What would make a certain work or task or something in your past difficult? Who would like to do that? Raj, you want to do that? Sure.
A difficult task for me is to ask my manager for a raise. And I think that's common to a lot of people, but that's exactly the reason I'm here, so that I can learn how to speak, learn how to present myself, learn how to put forth my ideas, and so I can tell him how giving me a raise is not just good for me, but it's good for him too, because I will stick along longer and then have him get a raise. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Okay. The next topic will be in regards to entertainment. Travel or something that you like to do, but you had problems with it historically or again by preference. So again, you'll be on travel and vacation. What would be a history of difficult travel for you, vacation, or some kind of entertainment that you've done? Anybody would like to do that? Okay.
A difficulty for me traveling, the last major vacation I took was a disaster in the beginning, beautiful at the end. We fly out of Sacramento. We miss our connecting flight in Dallas, not because of our fault, but because the airline pilots didn't get enough sleep the night before out of Sacramento. So our flight was delayed and they should have put us on another flight. This was our honeymoon, by the way. And they had to reroute us to Miami. Left our luggage in Dallas, and we didn't end up in Panama till the next day. So we're in hot, humid, 80-degree Miami with no clothes in sweatsuits because it was cold in California on our honeymoon. Great time. However, we did end up in Panama, had a great 8-day vacation, which was free of charge because I actually won this honeymoon, dressed up as a chicken on Let's Make a Deal with Wayne Brady. Yes, this is a true story. So that was my vacation story. Thank you.
And the next topic will be on understanding. But in this scenario, I would like for you to explore any movie that you thought was very difficult to understand or you had trouble relating to. Anyone would like to do that? Who else? Why me? Would you like to do that? Movie? If not, then something else. Yeah. Movie? Any movie? No? Good?
Mr.
Yeah.
Toastmaster,
Good.
fellow Toastmaster,
Sure.
most welcome guest.
Yeah.
Movies. There's so
Yeah.
many movies I don't understand.
Oh, okay.
But
good. Okay.
when I look at them, if I don't understand, I just fall asleep. It's the best thing to do. They're complicated movies. So there's this, apparently several years ago, there's this Christopher Nolan movie about I even forgot the name of it because it's so complicated. It's about this guy, they go in someone's mind and then somehow they go
Inception.
Inception, where somehow they go left and right and up and down, all types of dimensions, and in the end, I really don't understand what it's about. For the computer engineer, for the statisticians, maybe you guys can understand it, but for me, I study math, but I still don't understand. It is complicated. At the same time, it looks like a lot of people like it, and there are many such movies. So Inception is just one example, but there's so many other movies like this thing with this year's, what is it, the Oscar winner. I don't know if you ever actually seen the movie. Have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie? Have anyone seen that movie?
What was the movie?
Do you like it? Do you like it?
Yes. I like it.
That was good.
Do you think it's number one?
Oh, I haven't seen the other one.
Again, you have to look at the competition, right? It's the number one among the competition.
Okay, it's number one among competition. So if you pick, in terms of statistics, you pick the worst movies, and then of course it's number one among the worst. It's better than the other junk movies. In any case, so I really don't understand the movie business. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Ryan. It was a good perspective on Inception. How, yeah, I understand now why it's so difficult. So the next topic will be in a physical aspect, of difficulty, a physical challenge, maybe exercise or sport that was a challenge for you. Who has? Oh, would you like that, Harun?
Difficult challenge, a physical challenge. Well, 2 years ago, I really worked out and I lost a ton of weight. So I was working out twice a day, doing F10 and CrossFit in the mornings and doing yoga in the afternoons whenever I got the time. I actually lost about 30 pounds or so. And I was thrilled with my progress. I could fit into clothes that I hadn't tried jeans on that I hadn't worn for 10 years. The fact that they were still in it is a different story. That still I own those jeans. But I could fit into them and I was super excited. The interesting part was that I put that weight on like instantly back on again. And I've been struggling for the last 2-3 years to lose that weight again, because I realized that losing all that weight wasn't very healthy. So that's just been my physical challenge now, that to lose all that weight again and to get back into that. I have a feeling that's not going to happen again, but who knows? Miracles have happened. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that's all we got for time. It's 8:20. So thank you very much, everyone, for their contribution at Table Topics. Thank you.
And then we'll call upon some of the duty masters to give their report for the end of the meeting. We'll give Starlet a couple seconds.
Oh, I'm done.
Oh, you're done? Okay, timer report.
So for the timer report, Kim, I had 7 minutes and 4 seconds. Tao, 5 minutes, 42 seconds for the evaluations. Hannah, 3 minutes. Arsh, 3 minutes, 38 seconds. Gavin, 2 minutes and 50 seconds. For table topics, Kim had exactly 1 minute. Raj had 22 seconds. I don't know if anyone timed me, but I don't have a time for myself. Wami had 1 minute and 49 seconds, and Haroon's was 45 seconds.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll be the ballot counter
Oh,
unless somebody else wants to.
Pass the ballot to me, please.
Alright, Jose.
Yeah.
Jose will be ballot counter. Pass the ballots to Jose. What we're doing. So grammarian report.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I put. No. Sorry, never mind. Sorry, never mind.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, do we vote for
yeah.
ourselves or no?
These people.
I didn't.
Oh, there we
Yeah,
go.
okay.
Okay, good. Okay. Ballots to me. Yes.
So grammarian, Kim, you just said Zoom back in time. I'm not too sure about other usage of the word Zoom. Tyler, you just had a repetition on the we ran, I ran, interchanging those words. I like your usage of illustrated, so that was good. Arjun, of course, for statistics, use correlation and correlate, so that's a very good statistical word. Oh, Jose, you just had a couple interchangeables or repetitions of the word difficult. And then one thing I just want to highlight for overall table topics is using the word like and very. I do it myself with the ums and ands, but if you add in like, it's almost like a filler word. You're saying like just to emphasize your point, but it's not really needed. Same thing with very. If you have to use very, you're using the wrong word. It's very clean or very. So you can use an adjective instead of that. But that's just something for table topics. Wordmaster Starlet. I know I didn't use the word person.
No one used the word.
No one used the word, so everybody gets a fine.
I think I attempted.
Town.
Yeah.
Odd counter, Arsh.
Yep. So for Hannah, I had 4.
Oh, I had off counter.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you
We'll-
probably did
whichever.
better than I did. So
We'll have a battle of the
Yeah.
odd
Yeah.
counters.
Arjun won, and then everyone else I didn't have anything.
Okay, we can use yours.
Off counter, right? I have off counter. Okay, so Haroon had 3 ands, 1 okay, 6 ums, uhs, 2 so's, 1 like, and 2 repeats. Tao had 10 ands, 1 okay, 2 ums, uhs, 2 so's, 4 likes, 3 you knows, and 5 repeats. Arjun had 6 ands, 1 ah, 7 uhs, 19 so's, 1 like, 1 you know, 3 repeats. Hannah had 6 ands, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60 uhs.
That's not my height, by the way. When I started, I was like at 72. It's a true story.
Let's see. Give me an 13 so's. Is it arsh or arch? Arsh. Got that wrong. There are 12 ands, 20 uhs, 8 so's, 1 like. Gavin had 5 and thens, 1 and, 4 uhs. Jose had 2 uhs, 3 so's, 4 repeats. Wei Ming had 1 2 so's, 4 repeats. Barrage had 1 2 so's. Scarlett had 3 so's.
And then do we have a joke master today?
I have a joke.
Do you have a joke?
Oh. In a small town there's a small town in Kansas. There's a pub, and this one traveler, he stopped by this pub. He walked in and said he saw this guy drinking beer, and the beer was colored blue. He was like, "Hey, dude, what's going on? How come your beer is blue?" He says, "It's magic beer." What does it do? What does blue beer do? Well, blue is the sky, so it makes when I drink it, I can fly. No way, you can't do that. So I drank the beer, flew up into the ceiling, went back to his stool. I was like, no way. You used cables or something to make that happen. What is this place? So do it again. So he drank the beer again. He flew up the ceiling, came back down. He said, wow, it really works. Blue beer makes you fly. So he grabbed the beer and drank it himself. It's like, it does work. I'm feeling lightheaded. I feel like I am going to fly. He went up to the roof, jumped out of the roof, fell into the bushes. He had to be taken out by an ambulance. I was like, oh man, the guy got hurt. The bartender goes, you know what? I hate it so much when you do your pranks, Superman. You get it.
Rally counter? Yes?
Alright, we'll call upon guests for comment. For now, you're a guest, but go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely love the meeting. Just fantastic speeches, great Toastmasters, great evaluation. So always a pleasure to come here. Wednesday morning has been a great start so far.
Awesome, thank you. And then our guests from other clubs, does anybody want to give any feedback? Gavin or Arjun?
Oh yes. I feel very impressed by the supportive environment, even though we started the meeting late. Also, I feel really impressed by the three speakers, especially for the icebreaker speech, because the logic is really cohesive, and the lesson is very cogent. I feel really impressed. It's icebreaker. Thank you.
Nice word usage. Arjun?
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I think the atmosphere was great. All of you were very supportive. Arun, thanks for accommodating all our crazy requests. You know, one person standing here, the other one wanted to stand here. But it takes a lot of effort to run a meeting, and you guys did it very well. And I think there are a lot of good speakers here, and I'm hoping some of you are actually participating in the contest, because yours was it can be a great tall tale, but you can win.
I actually am.
You are?
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm looking forward to it. So just taking this opportunity to even do some promotion. I'm the contest chair for the Area C6 contest, and I'm holding it at NetApp just on Caribbean Drive, down Matilda, on March 5th. So if you're in the, I know you're in the area, but if you can drop by on Thursday, March 5th, so we'll have tall tale and international speech contest. It'll be a chance for you to see who you'll be competing against and get head start.
What time is that starting?
6 p.m., 6 to 8:30.
6 to 8:30.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Any comments?
Thank you very much for letting me give the speech. Sorry that I did not let you know I needed space. The other day at the other room, there was plenty of space where people were giving their speech. I did not realize about the room change. I didn't realize it was going to cause problems because of that. I really was impressed also with the icebreaker speech. I know when I gave mine, I tried to give a whole summary of my entire life, and there wasn't enough time. You had a nice theme going through your icebreaker with a moral. I thought that was really well. It was really well prepared. Your speech was hilarious. I really enjoyed the slides. I had a great time. The evaluations were superb. The meeting was run very well. Thank you for letting me come. This is the table topics for you, Jose.
And then besides Arjun's announcement, does anybody else have an announcement? I'll throw one out there. The officers and us met last night, and then we wanted to incorporate even kind of just an idea that we're wrestling with, but we wanted to get feedback. So when you get a chance after the meeting, if you want to give us feedback, or also at the next meeting. But adding in, instead of doing 3 prepared speeches, doing 2 prepared speeches, and then allowing that time frame for kind of like a pitch session. So we're called startup speakers, yet we haven't created the time and space for people to come in and do pitches, whether they're 30 seconds long or 3 minutes, because that's the usual length of pitching. So if you have, you can do slides. I've seen people even with VCs and investors pitch with slides, and they'll go on for 2 minutes. And so it's amazing how they do it. But to just create that space, so we wanted to get that feedback from the group. But just to close off the meeting, we'll wrap it up unless somebody else has another announcement. So drum roll, please. As the first icebreaker, Tao, you get an award. All right, for table topics, drum roll, please. It's not here, but Wyoming gives an honorary award. So if somebody wants to be Wyoming, you can also be Wyoming. So a drum roll for best evaluator. We have Arch. Come on down. And best speech, drum roll please. We have Arjun.
I voted for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Arjun. And then we'll take a photo with all the winners. Tao, come up here too. Who wants to be Wyoming? Harvard, do you want to be Wyoming?
You can be our Wyoming man.
We have a paparazzi.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, guys. Oh, sorry.
I love your logic. You're developing.
Does that need the Charlotte? Do you want to take it? Oh, you've already been Toastmaster.
Yeah,
Arch.
twice.
Have you taken a stab at Toastmaster? Oh yeah, you did. Last,
Thank
the
you.
last week too.
Oh.